Hey everybody, this is Perch. This is kind of take two. I started doing this video in as I was entering a car wash, and I thought I didn't think it'd be that noisy. I don't know, but I'm just gonna start this video, and then it like goes for a minute, and I'm like right in the middle of this car wash, and it's like it's like sandblasting off part of the car. I'm like, all right. I, this isn't gonna this isn't gonna go well. Too distracting. I was surprised honestly it was that noisy. Anyway, so and by the way, I was asking a question while I was in the car wash that maybe some of you could help me with, which is, do you remember? I have this memory that there was a movie, and it was like a James Bond movie, but it wouldn't be James Bond because James Bond would be they wouldn't have James Bond in one of these situations like this. But it was basically there was a woman in the car, and she was basically going through a car wash and the car wash had gotten rigged or there was some kind of disaster with it, and then it killed her in the car wash. I'm not talking about Final Destination. I knew they did something there where the woman would almost drown in the car wash or something, but this was like steel spikes went in. But I can't. So every time I go to their car wash, I think about this movie, but I don't know if this movie actually exists. Does anybody know? Any memories here? Was it a bad horror movie? I vaguely think it was a spy movie, but I couldn't for the life of me to tell you which one. But anyway, murder in a car wash. Help me out. Anyway, speaking of nostalgia or old things, I'm genuinely puzzled by this, and I feel like whenever I say something like that, several of you hear me. Uh, Basically, you think I'm disingenuous. You think I'm making this up, or I'm being, I don't know, just being kind of a douche about it. But I'm genuinely curious. Why is there such trust in comics and fandom for complete nonsense? And so I'll back it up a second by saying, when I start working and I'm watching this show called The X Files because it's a show in the '90s that you hopefully people have heard of that show. But one of the things about it is Fox Mulder had this poster in his office in the show that said "Trust no one." And I remember there being articles written in Entertainment Weekly and places like that going, it's the ultimate Gen X show because Gen X, with their natural mistrust of things, finally have a hero to rally around. Fox Mulder, who doesn't trust anyone, doesn't trust authority. And that's kind of part of the show where at various times his partner, Scully, who did trust the government, the institutions, and all the rest of the stuff, she would like bring forward evidence and Mulder would basically be like, "Nah, it's shit. They're faking it. This isn't real." He basically anything she brought, he was like, "Nope. It's a con. They're tricking us." Sully or Scully? Scully. Sully is the blue monster from Monsters Inc. Anyway, and a pilot who landed in the Hudson. But it reminds me of a funny story. I'll tell it. Well, shit, I'll tell you right now. I was working at Disney when and I've been flying, so I hadn't caught up on the news. And there was that miracle landing in the Hudson, and they're like, Sully saved the day. Captain Sully was able to land that thing. And for the longest time, I'm in Disney that day. I hadn't seen the news, and people are just talking about it. And in my head, I'm like, the Monsters Inc. guy? Is this a movie or a short? Is somebody like the Monsters Inc. guy landed a plane in New York? I don't get this plot, but all right. And anyway, I'm dumb. So yeah, it would make sense if you're working at Disney and Disney is all encompassing for all their all this kind of stuff. And I was slow to pick it up. Anyway, the idea of trust no one has been it is very true. It's a part of kind of the Gen X heritage. But to me, I think it's been pretty good advice overall. And I feel like a lot of people understand this because there's this mistrust of the mainstream media, and we've seen lots of editing and manipulation, whether it's through CNN, MSNBC, Fox, places like that. They will take clips of things and then they will selectively edit them to give you a very different story. We've seen it in comics. You had that Comic-Con thing with Zach where it was heavily edited. What that guy did, and he got busted by I don't remember what he got busted in a different story. The guy kind of hid his cell phone and then filmed the whole interview, and then pointed out where the interview was just severely edited, and how the host was like egging the guy on to say things, and then would edit that part out so the person sounded like a maniac. I mean, we've seen that. There's been so many stories of that. I think the vast majority of people listening to me right now would agree that there has been a lot of media manipulation, and there's been a lot of, people are selective with their facts and for their own purposes. Um, I don't is I think everybody feels that way on some form or another. The part that does confuse me often is when there's somebody who's like, CNN is completely 100% accurate news. They never edit or do anything deceptive. Fox News, on the other hand, is completely, they manipulate everything. And it's like, and vice versa. People are like, Fox and Newsmax are 100% accurate. They never manipulate anything. CNN and MSNBC are liars. It's like, I mean, you understand the tricks are used by everybody. Like literally everybody is using these tricks. It either plays, more or less to you depending on your politics, but everybody's doing the same thing. And I guess from there, I'm surprised that more people don't just assume that that's going on, on the internet, on social media, on other places. Elon likes to post regularly on X, we are the media now. And he's basically referring to, he can rack up a ton of views for basic Twitter news reporting. And nothing wrong with that. By the way, at no point am I saying somebody should be banned from doing it. But, my kind of question is, don't you think the manipulation happens there too? Like it happens everywhere. It's human nature. It's human nature for the person who is carrying out the news or the person who's bringing you information to do a little bit of storytelling in the process. And if you happen to like the story, then, you probably like the person who's doing it. But even if you like it, you can still on some level, hopefully recognize or understand that you're being conned to some extent. And so when it comes to comics, I just, the bias of the person who's talking is a big deal to me. And it doesn't mean that I stop watching things. It doesn't mean that, I'm going to, suddenly abandon stuff. I get along with Wes, who does Thinking Critical. Wes has terrible taste in fast food sandwiches. He's all about Arby's. When he talks about how great Arby's is, I know his bias, meaning he does not know what good food is. I'm joking. I say with love, although also, you're going to die if you keep eating that stuff. But and that's kind of a funny example, but I don't know other things. I know, for example, there's comic books that Wes likes that I absolutely don't like. So when Wes is like, this is the best comic in the world, in my head, I'm like, hey, I still like you. You're still a good guy. I don't trust that opinion because this is a comic book at a style that you enjoy that I don't. So therefore, when you tell me it's the best comic book in the world, I know your taste, I know your interest, I know your bias. And, that's just, it's nothing against him. It's just, this is how everybody is. And I think I probably shouldn't have used Wes as an example there, but I'm trying to ease into something here. I think, if you look at anyone who's doing commentary on articles, on videos and everything else, I think you have to understand, or at least it's wise to at least ask yourself, what is this what's this person's angle? What is this person's bias? I've tried to be overly transparent in mine. I was a retailer for a long period of time. I am more business minded. I skew more business minded than social minded, for sure. It's why I have people have accused me of having dispassionate takes at times, and for that I'm like, thank you. Yes, I agree. I'll stand on your side of the line and throw rocks at me as well around that. I that is who I am. I know it's always good to have self-awareness and know your own biases. In my case, you could ask me about like, why did DC, for example, cancel that book, via Gretchen, who was doing the Red Hood book? Well, I mean, to me, lots of things you could answer that question with, but the business answer is the most logical one. Low selling character, nothing but downside to let this book continue. It's about numbers, and generally, most of the time, it is about numbers, including in comics. And by the way, that's not a bad thing. Typically, the people you want running your companies, when you are a commercial company selling goods, is you want people who are not going to let their emotions get in the way of things. You want, it's not fun. I'm sure they're not great people at parties, but you want number crunchers. You do want passion and you do want vision, but you also want somebody who's going to make sure you don't go bankrupt, make sure that you're making sound business decisions. These are important things. You want to keep your company afloat. I think a lot of comic companies have struggled because you have a bunch of visionary people there and you have nobody with business sense, and that tends to not work out well in the end. But I guess you all listening to this, you're all fans. And like I said before, I'm willing to bet most of you, at least some of what I've said resonates with you, that you mistrust media. By the way, you should mistrust me. You're listening to this, but I hope that the things I'm saying, you're like, interesting take. Don't know if I agree or not. I will go check it out for myself. That's the right answer. That's absolutely what you should do. Anyone who's asking for your blind devotion is a cult leader, not, somebody who's just trying to talk to you. And I think there is, one difference that we have in comics, and I too get tired of it used to be perfect and now everything sucks, because it didn't used to be perfect all the time and not everything sucks now. But I will tell you one thing that definitely was better is you could go into a comic shop, you could have wild and crazy and big disagreement conversations. And at no point during the conversation did somebody go, well, comic books are dead. I'll never be back to the store because comic books are dead now. It's over. There's no hope. We're done. It's all over. Nobody said those things because that would have been stupid to say. You did have people coming in who were talking about all kinds of crazy shit. Everything Marvel produces is garbage. Everything DC produces is for children. The Marvel ruined the industry. The Heroes World whole era of their life was disastrous for indies, and they were predatory in their behavior. I mean, like lots of comments like that, and some of those, by the way, are they're not wrong. There's elements of truth to all that, no doubt. But we all had a healthy amount of, I don't know, mistrusting the basic information we're given. And so, but that's why today, when you get kind of stuff. I mean, this is always where I feel like the comic community, the fans, just should know better, or they should be helping better, because we've had lots of decades to practice this. And I mean, it's like when several years ago, when Marvel editors would talk about how all the angry fans were just incels, and no, Squirrel Girl was selling 200,000 copies, just where you can't see it in digital. um Trust me, bro, as my source, correctly so, that was nonsense. And it was disappointing that the people, because they felt like they needed to align with somebody politically, they went all in on just trusting clear insanity. I don't think it's any better now when people are like, hey, if Superman doesn't make $1.2 billion, it's a flop. It's like, and you know your math is from the school of I made it up. So why, where is the mistrust? I think we are a healthier, better group when there was more mistrust in comics. I think we are, in a weird way. I guess this is my crazy ass premise. In a weird way, I think we were actually closer together. I think we were better fans. I think we were potentially better people. But I think in general, we had a healthier group when we all trusted each other less. There's just something a little bit more healthy and balanced by that. Anyway, crazy concept, I know. Strength through mistrust. Think about it. Thanks for listening.